And finally, we should not forget that all of these compounds, the new compounds, currently still have side effects. We have already side effects with interferon ribavirin, and there's no free lunch. So the new drugs, tenofovir, may cause rashes, boceprevir may cause anemia, it may cause dysgeusia, so bad tasting. It's really, when you treat these patients for 48 weeks with boceprevir, they don't taste any meat anymore, they don't like it. It's really a significant impairment in quality of life. And we have to wait for the second wave of generations maybe of these compounds where we have less side effects. And then, of course, I showed you my vision, one tablet and cure. But what is real life right now in these trials? Right now, we give patients, they get a palm to get reminded every 8 hours to take their pills. And in some trials, we give 24 pills per day still. And we still have to work on this. These drugs are still by far not perfect at this stage. The second wave generations may allow once daily dosing, but there's still a long way to go to further improve these treatment options. And finally, all of these compounds were only tested so far in rather healthy HCV-infected persons. So those patients that we really need treatment were not addressed at all. There's no trial in liver cirrhotic patients. There's no trial in after liver transplantations. Comorbidities, cardiovascular, renal, etc. were not addressed at all. No trials in the elderly or in children. No trials in co-infection. And of course, no trials in non-genotype 1 infected patients. We are always talking about genotype 1. In Europe, the situation is different from New York. We have a significant proportion of genotype 4 patients in France. We have many genotype 3 patients in London, the Pakistani group. So it's really a significant problem that we have no development programs in other than genotype 1 infected patients. So the final question is, of course, if interferon is so bad, is if so many bad news, can we combine two different classes, protease inhibitors plus polymerase inhibitors, to get rid of interferon at all? This is what we want. This is our hope, our future. And the good news is that the first data have been presented and the first trials have been performed. There are data from Merck. Merck treated 3 chimpanzees with a protease inhibitor and a polymerase inhibitors, and they cured a patient a chimpanzee without needing interferon. So it is possible, and we have now the first data showing that if you combine a protease inhibitor and a polymerase inhibitor, that no resistance emerged after 14 days. The next trials are ongoing. But if this concept works, I'm very optimistic that the entire development program will change within the next years, and that we really have maybe interferon-free regimens already available in the year 2013-14, but not before. Definitely not before. And very finally is, of course, the question: if we want to give a pill, a tablet, and to cure a patient, is this sufficient, or can we enhance the immune system? We have no vaccine against hepatitis C. We want a vaccine against hepatitis C, and may this vaccine program enable us to give only a finite treatment duration for patients with hepatitis C. And therapeutic vaccination is still performed and has been performed already in patients. We have been performing, for example, one trial here using a peptides giving to chronic hepatitis C patients. You can enhance immune responses in chronic hepatitis C patients by vaccination. However, the problem so far was with these vaccine trials that we performed is that they did not produce enough interferon gamma, these T cells that we induced, so the clinical efficacy was limited, but the concept is not dead, and there are at least 3 very promising vaccine programs ongoing. One here in the UK in Oxford by Paul Kleinerman's group. They show very high immune responses in phase 1 trials using adenoviral approach. There's another program in France, the TG4041, and a third program run at Karolinska Institute in Stockholm. So you will hear more about therapeutic vaccination, and I think this is possible. So how do I see the treatment in the 2020s? Maybe a little earlier. This should show you maybe that we combine 3 compounds, 3 antiviral drugs, a protease inhibitor, a polymerase inhibitor, and another polymerase inhibitor. We give this for a certain time, and then we cure HCV. We have no clue how long we will treat, maybe in some patients lifelong. We may still use interferon then. by shortening treatment, that we have a thinner treatment duration and maybe have a quadruple therapy. We may even give 5 compounds, including ribavirin, to have and allow even shorter treatment, or we give the 3 compounds plus a vaccine. This may also work. But I'm sure that there's a lot of work for all of us to do, because once we have these tools available, a vaccine and several direct antiviral agents, then we may combine everything. And we mix over, we may explore different scenarios, vaccination, interferon first, and so on. So I'm really sure that these scenarios are true. We have to then to explore which scenario is the best for each patient. The very last statement is, cure of HCV is possible. This is different from HIV. HCV is a curable disease, we know it. Some patients clear the virus spontaneously, and it will be possible to cure HCV without interferon. It's just a matter of time. And the unfortunate thing for our patients is really that this will still need a couple of years before we can prescribe these drugs. So don't go home and tell the patients in the year 2013 you will have the compound. It's still only for a subgroup of patients, but the good news is in 10 years from now we will cure every hepatitis C patient without interferon. And this is just to advertise for ESA. Thank you very much.